What's up? I was lamenting about South Africa being the least African country in the world. Okay, and I was speaking about how if you go to downtown Johannesburg, or even Soweto, which is a black township full of Xhosas, Tswanas, Zulus, Vendas, you are hardly ever going to see somebody rocking their traditional African gear. Whereas, unless of course it's a wedding or something to celebrate our heritage and our culture. That is, and Soweto is like I said, super black. It's a black township. There, you should be seeing African culture. Instead, you're gonna find people rocking Nikes and Adidas. You're gonna find those like jeans and sweatpants and shirts and t-shirts. You're gonna find Western culture all over Soweto. But I dare you to go to a village in Nigeria or Ghana or anywhere else, and you will find people wearing their traditional cloth. Largely. Yes, there are people who are rocking their t-shirts, their whatnots, but they are largely still in their African gear. So when I say South Africa has sold out to the Western agenda, to gentrification, to globalization, it is literally, if not the only, one of the only African countries that has sold its African soul to the proverbial Western devil. So we don't count. When it comes to looking at how the world has impacted, how the West has impacted the world at large, South Africa, you don't count us. We are Sabela. In Sarafina, we are the Uncle Tom in a white supremacist government. We are the ones who have not held on to our original roots no matter what. And so therefore, we look more American than we do South African. We look more European than we do South African. We have not held fort to our culture. In South Africa, it's actually quite shameful because largely the people who have sold over are like black South Africans. You will still find the Boeramag, the Afrikaans, the white males but the white conglomerate in South Africa that are Afrikaans. They largely still hold to their culture and their outfits and the khaki pants and the very hard knock Boer thing that they do. They still hold on to it. It's the black conglomerate in South Africa that have forgotten their culture and their roots. So it's sold then. It's South African soul to, like I said, the Western devil, the Russian devil, the Chinese devil, the American devil. It has sold over. So we look like China. We look like, Russia? We look in South Africa like America because we are an Uncle Tom of Africa. But you're not going to find that everywhere else in Africa, meaning that everywhere else in Africa has not been wickedly, all of it just transformed in a negative direction by the satanic woke culture coming from the West and the global elite culture coming from the West. Many African countries have rejected the agenda of the global elites. They have rejected GMO food, basically the colonization of food. They have rejected the woke agenda. They have rejected the LGBTQIA plus agenda. They have just stuck to the African guns, but for South Africa. So you will find yourself being super comfortable as an American in South Africa, especially if you're a liberal American. However, you might have quite a hard time in, Namibia or something. I'm just saying. Next point of discussion. Power came back, electricity. So it turns out I was successful in speaking my way through this load shedding. Hallelujah, amen. But we're going to finish this conversation. That's me switching on my computer. Let's talk about the gas issue in the world right now caused by this war in Ukraine that has wreaked havoc in Western society, largely culture. So we are all these backward and just not quite catching up fast enough bunch of folk here in Africa. We're literally still using coal and stuff to power up our engines and to light up our cities, and this coal has wreaked havoc in a whole bunch of our lives. On top of that, it is a massive carbon emitter. In and of itself, it is a carbon compound, so it's definitely something that is frowned upon quite largely by the global elite. However, these guys that are claiming that everybody's carbon emissions is wreaking havoc in the world, God knows how to discombobulate and confound the speech of the Tower of Babel builders, Abu Nimrod over there. Yeah, no, okay. This carbon compound called coal, okay, that is largely lighting up the electricity poles of Africa. They have not yet moved over to a lot wind and solar power and all other different kinds of alternatives for gassing up their countries in this war in Ukraine, thanks to Vladimir Putin. type establishment thing. What has happened is that now, thanks to how freezing it is in Europe, and you know what, guys, let's take a moment to just really acknowledge the sorrow of those people right now, and not just in Europe, but in the United States as well, in basically in Western society up there, tops the northern hemisphere is cold right now, and colder than it ever has been. It's looking really disastrous. I was looking at images of what's going on in Japan. I was looking at images of what's going on in New York is like frozen over, but it's also wet. It's flooded. I was looking at they covered a story of where was it? France, yes, in France, like just Europe, okay, parts of Asia and the United States are literally an ice block right now, and it's unprecedented. People are dying. Buffalo in New York City has even been dealt a bad blow with fatalities there. People have actually died from how cold it is. I believe there was also a power cut there that happened as a result of the weather disaster. So it's really bad right now in the United States of America, not just the US, but up tops there, northern hemisphere, okay? They're currently going through a really horrific winter. We are in summer. I'm in South Africa, right? And that winter is blasting a cap in their knee, like you won't understand, because of the gas crisis, especially in Europe, that has been induced into those lands by the war in Ukraine. So to try and heat up Europe at the present moment, they're trying to make deals with Namibia. Not Namibia, but Africa. Well, Namibia is one of the countries, okay, that are still using coal. They are literally trying to find an alternative to heat themselves up, and they're saying, guys, please give us your coal, sell us your coal, sell us your coal. However, Namibia is acting like a prissy little girl that's like, no, I'm sorry, I don't date skinny guys. I like them buff or whatever. They're passing them shade for whatever reason. I don't know. I have yet to find the true facts as to what's going on there. But Europe is literally trying to buy coal to light up their country and to heat it up in this winter from Africa. So it turns out our archaic strategies, and also this war with carbon emissions, where they're telling everybody to stop breathing, basically don't have so many babies and stop eating sugar and anything at all that is a carbon compound, throw it away. They are saying that these carbon compounds are wreaking havoc, these carbon emissions are wreaking havoc in the atmosphere. However, them with their 27 car convoys in the meetings that they have globally are releasing more of these emissions with their jet fuels in their private jets in the world than any of us can even dream to in a lifetime. And now here it is that the very same people that are anti-coal and renewable energy, we're going to use the sun and we're going to use wind, they are literally clean energy, sorry, not renewable. They are literally saying, okay, look, okay, just for like 5 seconds, okay, give us coal. Even though we are anti any emission at all, and not even oxygen, okay, don't give us carbon, don't give us oxygen, don't even give us nitrogen. If it is an element on the periodic table, we don't want anything to do with it. We're going to find an excuse to say the world is coming to an end, but right now we're really cold. We're really cold and our people are dying. So give us that coal and let us emit those carbon emissions just for this winter until we can negotiate again with Vladimir Putin or find some other strategy to light ourselves up. So it turns out all of their concocted philosophies as to why under heaven everything is falling apart in the world, God is literally taking it and turning it back on them on some, really? So the carbon that I put on the earth as the very core of most life, nothing can live, frankly, that doesn't we are made up of a whole bunch of carbon. You are blaming your indiscretion on basic building blocks of life. Well, I'm going to freeze you in a winter that is unbearable until you go back to rudimentary, to basics, and use a carbon compound to heat up your country, and you're going to end up begging an African nation for your energy because Vladimir Putin is going to act a fool for a season. How in the world do you go and blame something so essential for life, a building block, as what is destroying us all as a human race? Literally, Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel is currently what is going on the ground, and God is humiliating it. So here it is that in South Africa, we use coal because we're dumb. We are still on that tip and we don't have power, we don't have electricity, we are wreaking havoc in everybody's life because this is South Africa. I should be doing a Childish Gambino version of This is America, called This is South Africa, okay? Fowls did one year called This is Nigeria. Well, this is South Africa. We're still using coal even though we've got alternatives, and I spoke about that the other day. And God is basically saying to the world at large that you there who think you can fix everything by chopping up carbon emissions and taking away farmland from people and forcing people to abort babies because they are carbon emitters, and in their lives they are just going to wreak so much havoc. What I'm going to do is literally make you go back on your own silliness, and I'm going to make you emit more carbon in winter because somebody is going to go and invade a land that is sovereign, and all of y'all are going to back up against him, and as a result of that, y'all are going to be forced to then use coal from Namibia. Literally, the world at large is being handled by God, suggesting there is still intervention by God, suggesting that maybe, just maybe, we might not actually yet be at the end. Next.